about something that a lot of men struggle with. And I'm going to just start off with saying that a lot of women don't make this easy for men either. And that's dating app conversations that literally go nowhere. So if you're thrust into the world of modern dating, you've got a profile built on Match.com or Hinge or Bumble, you probably know some of the pain that many of us feel when you invest into a conversation and people just don't respond or it doesn't go anywhere. And it can feel really, really tiring if it's happening on repeat. So let's say you match with a woman and you send a really thoughtful message to her and she responds with one word. And then the whole thing dies a slow, painful death. Or maybe this is the situation. Maybe the conversation starts okay, but suddenly she just stops asking you questions. She starts giving you nothing back, and you feel like you're completely carrying this entire conversation. And many of you men end up feeling like, what did I do wrong? What happened there that caused her energy to shift? And here's something that I want to highlight in today's video and today's podcast is that a lot of you guys aren't actually doing anything wrong. It's that you're maybe not thinking about dating app conversations in a way that will support you. Because let's be honest, men and women are not the same. We operate differently and we are motivated by different things. And what happens is if the conversations online are not creating connection the way women need it, the conversations will end up falling flat. And I understand that at the same time, a lot of you guys are honestly exhausting yourselves trying to make something work with a woman who is giving you nothing to work with. And so today I want to really help you unpack why conversations feel dry and predictable, what is actually going on in a woman's mind, right? The biggest mistakes that many of you guys can make along the way. I want to share how you can talk with women online in a way that is going to give you the best chance of creating attraction. I also am going to sneak in here, when is a good time to ask her out? And honestly, I'm also going to talk about when is a good time to move on and do so with confidence so you don't continue to spend time, minutes, hours, days, week investing in something that just isn't going to produce the fruits of your labor. Now, let's dive in. Now, of course, if you're new to this channel, welcome aboard. My name is Kimberly Hill. I'm a dating and relationship coach for men. I support good-hearted men to attract deeply loving relationships. Now, in particular, I work with men that are dating again after a divorce or have been separated for a long time, or are dating again after the end of a long-term relationship because you have relationship experience, but you haven't been in the dating world for a long time, and that creates a bit of an identity shift. You have to show up differently when you're dating women than you do when you're in a committed relationship with them, and that's often where I come in. So if that's something of interest to you, by the time this video is going live, I'll likely be taking more clients on for the new year, January 2026. Now, I want to talk about something which is like why one of the main reasons why dating app conversations feel really dead or lifeless. And this is something that some men don't fully think about or realize, is that women do not respond to information. They respond to emotion. And we're talking in the context of a dating app, right? Because of course, if we're going to school or we're learning, of course we can respond to information, but it's not the same way, right? When it's on an online dating app and you're texting with your two thumbs with a woman, it's not information that draws her in. It's the emotion that pulls her in. And this is one of the things that you guys love about us women, but it's also one of the things that irritates you the most. And so most men will get on dating apps and they'll tend to ask questions like, hey, how's your week going? Or, oh, what do you do for work? Or do you have any plans this upcoming weekend? And it's not that those questions are bad in and of themselves. It's that the way they land for women is boring. Women see those questions as boring and generic and as small talk, in fact. So the desirable women, the women that you find the most attractive, in particular on dating apps, they might be getting multiple messages from men every month with that same tone, with that same energy, with that same spirit. And so you end up sounding like every other guy. You sound polite, you sound neutral, you sound predictable, you kind of sound forgettable. And so what's happening is those types of questions on a dating app, they're not creating the polarity, the energy, the curiosity, the attraction that is needed. You're creating small talk. And small talk kills momentum because small talk is monotonous. It's something we do briefly with our neighbors. It's something we do with the stranger we saw at the grocery store. It doesn't break us women out of our natural neutral way of operating to create something different. There's no synapses, no new neural pathways are being formed when we are having the same kind of conversation with different people, the small talk conversation. So what happens is those questions that you think are normal and general to ask actually are killing your momentum. And so men and women want different things at the start of a dating app conversation. And this is where a lot of the core disconnect come from. This is something I talk more deeply with my one-on-one clients. I actually have with my one-on-one clients, I get access to an exclusive course I have called Dating Mastery for Men. And there's a whole section in here that walks you through the psychology of how women think about online conversations. But the core disconnect, to simplify here, is that men are looking for a little bit of information at the start, a little bit, right? And women are looking for a feeling. So men think, well, I need to get to know her just a little bit to see if she's not completely crazy. I already can deem that she's attractive by her photo. So men are going, I just need to get to know her just a little bit. And hopefully I can get her out on a date pretty quickly because I would like to show her who I am in person, not on a dating app. Totally fair and a totally logical way to think about it. But women are thinking, I need to feel something in this conversation before I make any decision about going out and seeing this guy. So you see how we have this disconnect in what men and women are wanting from the beginnings of these conversations. And women, without a doubt, say, I need to feel something here before I'm going to go have a shower, blow dry my hair, or commit to going out on a date. So the truth is a woman can talk to, let's say, 5 different men in one evening. It's a possibility. And the only one she will remember, the only conversation that's going to stand out for her is the one with the man that made her feel something. He made her smile. It felt really warm in the conversation. It was the most playful conversation. It was the one that sparked the deepest curiosity in her. There was kind of a vibe going on in the conversation. And so what I'm not saying here is that you need to be a comic or stand-up comedian or really incredibly charming or totally wild. But what you do need to do in these conversations is bring some energy, bring some of your personality, and add some texture into the conversation. And if you're finding, okay, I'll say this now, if you're finding that when you get onto a dating app, your energy is flat, it's neutral, you're bored, you're apathetic, you're already a little bit clouded or super judgmental, you're toast, right? Because the energy you bring will make the biggest difference. And that's what will land appropriately for women. And so what I want to talk about now is why some women will just give you these one-word responses, even if you're bringing a lot of excitement to the conversation. And it's almost never because you are boring as a person. It's because either this woman is overwhelmed with matches, which is a true possibility for women that are quite active online, that are very attractive, and they do have their pick of the litter, so to speak, or a woman is actually tired of carrying conversations, because some women are doing the carrying of the conversation. So she'll get to a point where she'll stop putting the effort in and just be one-word responses. Or what's happening is your tone is super flat or overly formal. She doesn't really know how to respond to that. And so you'll get the one-word answers. Or you actually start getting into interview style questions. She kind of feels like you're asking, too many things all at once. It's more of an interrogation than like a relaxing get to know you. Let's have fun in this conversation. So you'll start to get, yeah, I work. Yeah, I'm busy. Yeah, I'm this. You'll get that kind of energy back. And often it's because she's not feeling the energy from you. And you might be saying, how the F does a woman feel energy through a text? I don't know. We just do. I'm not really sure how to demystify or explain that one. But when we read texts, we have a different subjective experience on how we take that text and we take its meaning, which is why you guys might be like, oh my God, Kimberly's about to tell me I should use emojis. Sometimes you need to use emojis to help you along to deliver the right tone in your conversation, because a dating app conversation is not where you're supposed to be super, super formal. While you do want to have correct spelling and the right kind of grammar to demonstrate that you're not uneducated or, give the woman the wrong vibes there. It's not supposed to be everything capitalized, all types of, super formal interview style questions. That's not going to fly for women. So that's why women will tend to start responding that way. And again, I think there's just something really important to remember here. A woman's effort is her interest. A woman's effort is her interest. So if she's giving you nothing back, she is telling you everything. And I know a lot of you guys wish that women would say, hey, I'm just not vibing this conversation. I mean, no disrespect, I'd love to move on, or this isn't going to work for me, and you guys could get that closure and move on. But just hear this. A woman's effort is her interest. Women won't be that direct. We are indirect communicators, as painful as that might be, but you've heard it here. A woman's effort is her interest. So if she's giving you nothing back, she's giving you a string of one-word answers, then she is telling you everything. She's saying, I'm not interested, excited, charged, or feeling enough to pour time and energy into this conversation. And of course, I also want to say here, guys, that you just can't create a connection all on your own. Right? This video is not to say it's all men's responsibility to carry the conversations and bring all the fun. You do often have the burden of leading that, of creating that initial tone, but a woman has to reciprocate, right? You can't force energy into someone or a woman who just isn't giving any to you. And if she wanted to talk to you, you'd know, right? So let's talk about why it's really important you don't just continue to carry all these conversations alone, because this is where many men will ultimately burn out and start to get jaded and frustrated on dating apps, because you might think to yourself, well, if I just try a little harder here, or if I now just start to ask some better questions, or if I stay really patient with her, those usually aren't the strategies that work. The truth is, as you guys know, conversations are a two-person job and interest is a two-person job. So if she's giving you the one-word replies, she's giving you no curiosity, no questions, dry energy, no follow-up, hours or days between replies, and zero investment, then you're not in a conversation. You are now performing to a one-person crowd who may or may not be paying attention. And you can't build attraction with someone who just ain't going to meet you halfway. You can initiate, you can lead, you can create the spark, but you can't pull her along beside you. And this is going to happen to a lot of you men, because there are women on dating apps that probably shouldn't be on dating apps, or need to take a break from them, or like the idea of maybe dating but aren't actually creating the time and space for that. And so the truth is, while we have this convenience or supposed convenience of accessing a lot of single people through dating apps, you also are accessing a lot of people, and not everybody is truly ready to be putting themselves out there. So you get the good with the bad, so to speak. Now, let's talk just for a little bit on how to create connection instead of small talk. So all this being said, how can you focus on building connection that's going to spark female interest instead of falling into the routine small talk? And here's what actually works. The first is to make playful observations. So you could say the small talk version is, hey, how's your week? But instead, let's just package that one up and throw it away and say something that's referencing a photo or a comment in her profile, like, oh, your dog looks like it steals every sandwich you ever tried to eat. Like the photo of the dog looks a little silly and a little hungry. That's a little playful observation, not a routine question. So get good at making observations and then making comments on those observations. And you'll notice that small talk was a question and the playful observation was more of a statement. You don't always have to have a question mark at the end of a string of words to get a response from a woman. So playful observations can invite a woman in, invite her in informally to have fun in the conversation that you've just set up. Now, you also want to show personality. So women want to feel you. They don't want to read your resume that you went to this school or you have this job, or, they don't. Yes, some women are going to take that into consideration, but in your conversations, it's more about showing who you are, sharing some stories, definitely not sharing facts, right? Women connect to the feeling, not the information. So you want to share some stories that you notice you had something in common on your profile about hiking, which is really common, or you travel to a similar place, or the dish of food that she's eating in the photo with her friends is the favorite one you love to make. You start to share stories that build connection, not facts, not what was in your recipe. That's more factual than what inspired you to go to that restaurant with your friends. That's going to get into personality, into story, into a lot more connection. And of course, guys, you are responsible for bringing your own warmth and your own energy. So you can say something like, "Oh my gosh, that made me laugh." Saying that to something a woman said is better than just writing fun or interesting. So you have to bring warmth and energy into your responses in order for her to feel that warmth and energy. And so that goes without saying that if you're using apps when you're really busy, or you've had a couple drinks, or your attention is elsewhere, it's not a good time to respond. You're just not going to naturally bring that warmth and energy into it. Now, of course, you also need to be asking questions that create the emotion, not set you up for sharing information. And so, of course, I talked about this in many other episodes of mine, saying something like, "Hey, what's something exciting you've been learning lately?" And she's going to tell you something you've been learning, and you're not going to then ask her for specific information about what it is she's learning. You're going to ask her, "Wow, what inspired that?" Or "What's your favorite part about that?" These types of questions get into the emotions and the storytelling versus, "Oh, I'm taking my radio license course," which is an example I'm sharing because my partner asked me to do that many years ago, and I begrudgingly accepted. And I did it to make him happy, and also because I thought it was a good idea. But if someone was talking to me about that on a dating app, we're not going to be talking about the specifics of the radio course. We're going to talk about the story that I just very briefly share with you. Okay, so you want to ask questions that create this kind of emotion and storytelling. And then, of course, you got to match her tone. So if she's playful, play along. If she's thoughtful, go a little deeper. If she's dry, she ain't interested. And then the last thing I want to talk about here, guys, is keeping your messages shorter than longer. And long paragraphs are not, firstly, that's not what texting online is for, right? That's maybe something you're going to communicate to someone in an email that they can read in their own time. Or it's, if it's something that takes that much explaining, it's probably worth having an in-person conversation about it. So shorter conversations are better. Long paragraphs will either create pressure for women to have to read and respond to so many points of reference in that message, or it's going to signal you're way too overinvested. And so your energy should feel like, "I'm really enjoying this conversation, but I'm not relying on it. I'm enjoying this conversation, but I'm not relying on it," right? And that's something that women will feel too, because as much as this might sound a little bit silly to say this, while you might be really intrigued by a woman in the beginning, you have to somewhat be indifferent to the outcome early on, because you're not indifferent to where it goes in the beginning. You're creating way too much pressure right from the get-go, and that's going to be a surefire way to evaporate the relaxing energy from a conversation online. So let's say you've seen a beautiful woman online, you've had some fun flirty exchanges, you've made some playful observations, she's having a good time in the conversation, you notice that there's a playful tone. Well, then when the heck do you ask her out? Next week? No, probably not. We're going to talk about why your timing now matters here. Because, of course, if you ask her out immediately, the first message is, "Hey, do you want to grab a drink?" You'll look really rushed and you'll probably get a no. And if you wait way too long because you're really afraid of asking, then what happens is the momentum dies, because you're relying on the momentum being sparked between the conversation. And so if you wait too long, the momentum dies, or this woman has far too much time to have other experiences or other connections brewing in between when you had the most enjoyable part of your conversation. So where is the actual sweet spot for asking a woman out online? And it doesn't need to be complicated, guys. So you want to ask her out as soon as you've had a warm, natural rhythm. And that might take place within 7 to 10 messages, right? It doesn't have to be 2 weeks of conversing. It can happen relatively quickly, as long as you have had warm, natural rhythm between you two. Nothing complicated, nothing dramatic. Just, "This is really fun. Do you want to grab a drink this week?" Or, "This seems great. This is so easy to talk to you online. It feels so natural. Do you want to continue this in person?" A very confident, low pressure ask is always the best way to move the conversation from an online dating app to getting out and meeting in the real world. And if a woman is interested, she's going to say yes. If she's not, she will dodge, she will delay, or she'll start slipping into low effort and maybe circle back later and say, oh my God, I'm sorry, I've just been so busy. Women aren't even that effing busy. So it's just the most common excuse they will give men. And either way, what happens is you'll get your clarity here. And once you have your clarity, you know then how to proceed and move forward, which might be actually to move on from her. So this is the part that a lot of guys struggle with. And here's the truth. If you're doing all the emotional labor, it's just not a match, guys. You have to move on from a woman, regardless of how beautiful she is. If she's giving you nothing back, if she's not asking you anything, if she's taking days to respond to you, if she seems really disinterested, or just like kind of like is starting to be critical already. And if you're just trying to revive that conversation, this is me popping someone's heart back, then it just isn't the right match for you, right? 2 messages of low effort is enough information from a woman. You don't need a month of confusion. Please don't put yourself in a situation where you continue to just take the little breadcrumbs from women. You don't want to come across desperate like that. And you're not meant to convince a woman to be excited about you. So you move on with confidence, because the right woman will match your energy much more effortlessly. And so, look, I wanted to try and simplify this video to say that I understand dating apps are very exhausting for men. I do know that, because you guys have the burden of being the initiators. And you do feel a lot of the pressure on setting the tone and the pace of conversation. And I know a lot of men just honestly feel like they're fighting upstream. Also, when dating apps first came out, it seemed like a really exciting way to meet people, but understandably, like using our phones to create connection is taking many of us away from where connection is truly created, which is getting out socially, making connections in the real world. But the truth here, guys, is you are not meant to carry these conversations all on your own. And when you can communicate with a lot of playfulness, a lot of warmth, with personality, with confidence, the right woman will feel that, and she'll respond to that with effort and curiosity and enthusiasm. Now, I'm not saying she's going to make it blatantly obvious that she wants to go on that date with you, but she's going to give you something back that has some substance to it. And when she doesn't, you just move on quickly and cleanly without overthinking everything, because real connection, as you know, guys, you know this deep down, it is mutual, and effort is mutual, and momentum is mutual. And the woman that is ultimately right for you is going to show up and match that energy that you bring. Okay, so I hope this helps to demystify some of the online challenges that you guys are facing. And of course, if this is something that has just been an ongoing struggle for you, it might even be time to get some perspective on, how you're using dating apps, whether that is the right method for you. It is not the be all and end all of how to make connections. There's many other ways to make connections. And sometimes we rely too much on dating apps to spark those connections. And it sometimes can come at the expense of making connections in other areas of our lives. So I hope this was helpful. I hope there's something that you took away from today's podcast video. I'd love to hear your comments and thoughts below. I know there's going to be some of you that watch this and feel incredibly frustrated because, of course, a lot of the burden is on you guys. But keep the comments relatively polite. But I'd love to hear the discussion and things that have worked really well for those of you that have been more successful with conversations online. So share this wisdom so that other men can have a better time and we can enjoy dating a little more. Okay, guys, thanks very much for tuning in this week. Ciao.